DFS Trash Talk. Check it out. That's our podcast if you like a little NBA action. Pat, let's get to the picks here. 9K and above. We're going to talk 3 GPP plays and a fade in this range. Oh, man. Listen, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I don't really have a lot of stats tonight. I was inspired by Crazy Marcus. I was inspired by Kevin Na and Strokes Gain Home Life. But, I was also mostly inspired by the fact that, if Gino, if he had to, Mike could win this golf tournament. You know what I mean? If they would let him play, he might win it. This is just, they're coming out of everywhere at this event. You talked about Adam Long at 600 to 1, Andrew Landry at like 300 to 1 last year. So I'm just like, I'm going to look at a couple things. I'm going to look at form. I still like form, even though I know there's some tendency of guys not doing great, but still playing well here. But I looked at something on Fantasy National, which is where we get all of our stats, fantasynational.com/TJ for 20% off any sub. And that's subscription, not sub sandwich. They don't sell sub sandwiches on there. But anyway, I went and looked at strokes gained ball striking at the stadium course, and I wanted to see guys who had played at least 3 or 4 rounds over the last few years. So, I mean, if you got guys making the cut, which is the goal, they're going to get 3 rounds on the stadium course. I'm kind of throwing out I don't really care to look at the Nicklaus course, honestly. I'm throwing that out. And then if you look really at just finish positions over the last few years, it's including La Quinta, only 2 rounds at the stadium. It's different. It's a different event. So I looked at strokes gained ball striking. That's strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach. Who checked the box there, regardless of how they finished the tournament? I don't care. So I looked at that and I looked at recent form. And then I'm going with gut value. Ownership is a big deal. Like I said, I think you should leave some money on the table if you're playing in big GPPs because of the volatility of this tournament. So there you go. Obviously, Bermuda specialist would be good as well. That Tiff Eagle Bermuda is more of your standard Bermuda. It's more grainy. That's what apparently they've switched to according to the information that Pat dropped earlier. So that's what I'm looking at. What do you think about that, Pat? You like that?
I don't mind. I actually have a few more gut plays than I might normally have. Also, I didn't look at as much as I like to look at course history. I kind of threw a little bit of that out this week too. So
yeah,
so we'll see.
All right, I'm going to start off the 9K and above range. John Rahm has withdrawn. I don't really know why. He cited a sore back. It could be whatever. I don't think it's a big deal, but he's not playing. I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay, the next man up at 11-1. I am playing studs and duds this week. Not to say I wouldn't have a balanced lineup if I was mass entering a GPP, but if I'm playing a single entry, 3 max entries, I like the studs and duds approach. I'm more of a fan in the 7K, bottom 7K and 6K range than I was, for example, last week at the Sony, where I didn't really like anybody down there except you talked me into Doug Gim, which was one of the worst decisions I ever made. So this week, I'm playing studs and duds, and I'm going to start with Patrick Cantlay. Very limited experience here at the stadium course, but it was pretty good, when he played here. Finished 13th at the Tournament of Champions. We saw him play well in the fall also. So I'm going with Patrick Cantlay. And then I'm going to go with Patrick Reed. I'm going a set of Patricks. I got so many Pats in my life. I just figured, why the hell? I might as well add another one. Former winner here, 72-hole course record holder here, obviously with La Quinta in play. We saw him finish 21st at the TOC. Not great, but definitely checks the box here in terms of ball striking. And I feel like Reed's going to be a little overlooked. Maybe not. We'll see what happens when ownership shakes out. But I like Reed. And then at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and eat the chalk with Abraham Answer. I do think he'll be chalky despite missing the cut last week. This is a place that I think suits up really well for him. He nearly won it last year. Should have won it last year, honestly. But missed the cut at the Sony. T17 at the Tournament of Champions. T12 at Mayakoba before that. Obviously played well at the Masters. I think Answer arrives in good form, but I think this place just sets up really nicely for him. And the missed cut means nothing to me last week. It really doesn't. So, and I do think he'll be a little chalky in that range, but I'm going to go with Answer. My fade is going to be Brooks Koepka. Brooks at 10-8. Don't love the price in terms of the value I'm going to get out of BK. First event back. Lord knows what he's been doing. We talk about Joel Damon coming back after, a long layoff. We all know what Brooks has probably been doing, and it probably hadn't involved a whole lot of golf. So I see this as kind of a shaking the rust off event for him. We haven't seen him since the OHL, where he missed the cut. So first time here as well. I don't know, maybe lacks a little bit of familiarity or experience on the golf course, and I'm just going to fade him. I don't love the value. I'd rather have Cantlay. So that's the 9K range for me.
All right, so we got some disagreement here, which is nice. I like that. I'll start with where the agreement was, though, and that is Patrick Reed. He was one of my GPP plays as well, so we can both cross that one off as agreed. Where we disagree, though, is on two guys, and that is Cantlay and Brooks Koepka. I actually have Brooks Koepka as one of my GPP plays. I like him this week. I think we might get him at a little bit lower owned than we have seen him. He's certainly fits the stats category that I like. He's 20th in strokes gained approach. He's 11th in greens in regulation. He putts well on Bermuda. He's top 25 in the field there. Yes, I know he missed his last cut. That's fine. He was in pretty good form actually before that. So I like Koepka this week at 10-8, and I'm going to fade.
Here we go. Hold on. With the Brooks Koepka thing, let's do this. How about in the YouTube comments, tell us where you think Brooks Koepka is going to finish. Win, T17, miscut, T28. Tell us where you think he's going to finish. If you get it right, we'll send you a piece of swag. So comment on the YouTube channel. And if a lot of people get it right, we'll pick one person. And so maybe we'll pick one person who's also adds a funny comment. So do that. We'll see what do you think about Brooks Koepka? Because obviously a lot of disagreement.
I thought you were about to challenge me for a second there on some stats or something like that. And I was like, wait a second. You just said you weren't even looking at a bunch of stats. So don't come off at the top of the show challenging me on them. But I like Koepka this week. And yeah, I think, maybe for the reasons that you said, his first event back, everybody always worries about Koepka and events that aren't majors. He gets a little bit lower ownership. And I don't like Cantlay this week, actually. I think he will be a fade for me. He's 139th in the field in opportunities gained. I mentioned that as a stat. This is a scoring week. He's 81st in approach, 68th in putting on Bermuda. I think he could be a pretty good fade, and I think the ownership's going to be high as well. So he will be my fade. My other GPP play outside of Reed and Koepka is going to be Scotty Scheffler at 9,500. Now, he is a guy that we've seen in good form, played extremely well here last year, was third. The guy is just an absolute stud, a ball striking machine, par 5 scoring, checks the box there, greens in regulation. Now, going back to the putting, he hasn't been too good on Bermuda, but I still like some old Scheffler at 9,500. So there you go. Okay.
Why don't you start us off in the 8K range? 2 GPP plays and a fade.
Okay. I'm actually starting at the bottom of this range. And I think I'm not necessarily saying you could skip this entire range, but I'm not as big of a fan of this range as I am the 7K range there, because there's a ton of guys there that I like. But if I'm starting with my first play that I absolutely love, and that is Sam Burns at 8,300, I think he is just, across the board, stat-wise, everything lines up for him to have a good week. He's, you look at his history here, he's played well. He was T6 last year, T18 in his first start here. And the form has also been pretty good. Now, it goes back to the Houston Open. He hasn't really played all that much since then, but it was T7 there, played really well in the fall. I like Sam Burns at 8,300, so he is my top GPP play. And also, I'm going to go with Siwoo Kim at 8,200. The guy loves him a Pete Dye course. We know that.
Yeah.
And he scares the hell out of me. But
that's what he's supposed to do.
That's what he's going to do. He's going to do that to you when you want to play him. But, had a top 25 last week at the Sony. Showed some, he showed some pretty good form. I watched a lot of that tournament. It's easy to watch a lot of these West Coast tournaments because, especially,
I love it
because you get just, it's so much later. It's just
prime time golf for us East Coasters.
Yeah. So I thought Siwoo looked good, so I like him at 8,200. My fade is going to be Hadwin, who has just been an absolute ridiculous course horse here.
Yeah.
Let me review this. It's just
he shot nuts. The 59 at La Quinta, or almost shot the 59, or maybe did he?
Here's his last 4 times playing. He didn't play last year. T2, T3, second, T6. Okay. Yeah. That is incredible. All right. But you talked about it's just a different tournament this year with the fact that you only have the 2 courses. You don't get La Quinta. And he has just not been very good at all. lately. When you look at the form, he's been pretty awful. And then from the stats standpoint, they're not any good as well. So I'm going to still fade Hadwin despite the incredible course history here. So there you
go. Okay. I like your Siwoo play, by the way. And also his ball striking stats at the stadium course in 4 rounds, pretty good. 17th in this field strokes gained ball striking in the 4 rounds he's played at the stadium course. So good on you for the Siwoo Kim play. All right. So we talk about having ownership leverage in DFS tournaments and GPPs. You got to have guys who are lower owned. You can find diamonds in the rough. You can find the guys in the cheap end that end up really outperforming. You can fade a big name and get some leverage there. But another thing you can do is you can overpay for players. You can pay more than you think you should, or more than you think the general public thinks you should be paying. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that here in this 8K range with a tournament play only here for Adam Long at $8,500, previous winner here. And he's done okay. We saw him finish 3rd at the OHL, 30th at the RSM, 11th at the Houston Open. Pretty strong fall for Adam Long, but I think a lot of people are going to look at his name and the $8,500 price tag and avoid him. I could be wrong. That's just what I'm guessing. When he's there around everyone's favorite Lonto Griffin, I think Sam Burns is going to be a popular play. Siwoo Kim. So I just feel like he may go a little under the radar because of the price tag, and people aren't going to want. He's not a sexy name to pay $8,500 for. So I do like the Adam Long play there. And then I'm going to go with your boy last week, old cockbite, Brian Harman at $8,100, who didn't play great last week, made the cut, finished 56th. But he's like top 20, top 22 in strokes gained ball striking at the stadium course here. He plays well here. This is an accuracy kind of course to me. This is you don't have to be super long. You don't have to overpower this thing. I mean, Andrew Landry, obviously, you don't have to do that. Harman he's not that. He's a good wedge player. He's a hot putter. He's good on Bermuda. He's an accurate driver of the golf ball. So I feel like this is a good spot for him. And I like his upside. I like the value at $8,100. The fade for me is going to be a guy who's opposite of that at $8,900, Cam Champ. You're paying up for him at $8,900 on a course that you can't leverage his really, really, his skill set, which is hitting the piss out of the ball a really long way and then wedging it to death. But everybody's going to be wedging it here. It's kind of like Wiley last week. It's kind of a wedge fest. The par fives aren't super tough to get to and two for most of the field. He can do it. But it just takes the biggest weapon out of his hand, and that's the driver. And I don't love paying up for the $8,900 price tag on Cam Champ. He was 21st here last year when he played, but he gained 2.5 strokes putting, which rarely happens for Cam Champ. Does not happen a lot for Cam Champ, gaining those strokes putting. And he only gained about 2.3 off the tee, which is actually lower than usual for him at a lot of events. And that's because he loses the weapon of the driver. So I think this is not the best place to pick Cam Champ. All right, deep breath. 7K range is full of names. Now, this is where if you're not a member of the Nut Hut, you need to be in the Nut Hut, because I can see Wednesday night's chat, actually tomorrow's chat, Thursday morning's chat, waiting for lineup lock, is going to be full of decision making between the 7K range and the 6K range, because this thing is full of names. I mean, honestly, I could feel somewhat comfortable having all 7K players in a lineup. That's how much I love this range. It's really hard for me to narrow them down. There's a lot more names in here that I like that I'm going to be able to name. We're only going to give you 3 tournament plays and a fade, but I really like this range. I think a lot of tournaments are going to be won and lost by what you do in the 7K range. So if you're not a member of the Nut Hut, go to tourjunkies.com, click on Golby's Nut Hut, and join our private member-only Discord chat for only $10 a month or $90 a year. It's that easy. It's amazing. We get inside caddy info late, usually on Wednesdays or so. We share that with the group, and we just have a lot of sharp listeners, a ton of sharp listeners. Okay. If you need a quick little video on how the Nut Hut works, head over to our YouTube page. I got about a 4-minute walkthrough on how to sign up for the Nut Hut and what it looks like. Plus we have like NFL DFS, NBA DFS. Then we have freaking hockey. We have like all kind of stuff in there I probably don't even know about that people are giving advice on and people are winning money. It's nuts. Ben gives stock advice in there. It's just an all around banger of a time in the Nut Hut. So Golby's Nut Hut,
really?
check it out. Yeah, apparently he does.
I missed that.
Oh man! All right, what are we gonna do in the 7K range? This
Man,
is
I
tough,
love this
man.
range. I love it.
I feel like all right. This
This
might
is.
bite
I
me.
wrote down in my notes and I try to do this every week. Each range, I kind of give a little just something, and this is just the money making range this week.
Yeah.
Is what I.
All right, I'm gonna go with one. I'm gonna go with one play that I think is gonna be kind of chalky and maybe expected, and then I'm gonna go with two that I think are gonna really give you some leverage. It doesn't. They're guys I like, but I may not like them like the most, but I like them enough to play them, and I think they are gonna give you some leverage. The first play for me, and this is the one that I think is kind of expected and maybe a little more chalky, is our boy Sepp Straka, who I was on last week.
Yeah.
For a long hitter, Sepp plays these shorter courses really, really, really well. And now you give him a full plethora of par fives to attack. And I think it's going to be even better than his Sony finish. But he's been making cuts. He made cuts in the fall. He had a top 5 at the Houston back in the fall, T25 last week. But even here, he's played 3 rounds at the stadium course in his career. And total in this field, he's 5th in strokes gained ball striking. So play sets up well for Straka. Love the value at 7,400. I think that's a player in this range that gives you real win equity. I said it last week on the show. I said it on Pat Mayo's show. I believe Sepp Straka wins a PGA Tour event this year. This could be one of them. So I think that's kind of the chalkier play. If I'm going to go a little less chalky, I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, I'm thinking Kevin Streelman could slip under the radar a little bit at 7,200. He's a pretty cheap play. He's got 8 rounds at the stadium course over the last few years. That's a lot. That's probably more than anyone else in the field, according to Fantasy National, over the last 3 years, I believe, or maybe 2 years. He is 3rd in strokes gained ball striking in that term. Now, Kevin Streelman is not known to be like a tremendous ball striker. So that tells me this is a place that he really enjoys. It suits him for whatever reason. This is his first event we've seen since the OHL where he finished 32nd. But I really like the value with Streelman at 7,200. I think that's I think you can get some leverage there. And then I'm going to go back.
He fell under. You mentioned he fell under your. He might fall under the radar. He fell under my radar. I didn't even look at him. So
he's playing, huh?
I knew he was playing. I just now, obviously, but I didn't even look at him.
You're gonna have some super chalk in here. I think. In danger of being chalky, you're going to have Aaron Wise, Chris Kirk after his amazing week last week, which I was really happy to see that happen. Mm-hmm. Doc Redman is going to be massive chalk. Damon could be, depending on how many people paid close attention to Gino's interview there. Brendan Steele could hop up and be some chalk. So I think there's going to be some names in here. I'm going to try to give you something different. Last week I was on this guy. He disappointed. He missed the cut, but he didn't miss it by much. And he's got a good record here, and he always plays well in the desert. $7,100, Scott Piercy. I'm giving you cheap plays in the 7K range tonight. In the strokes gained ball striking, he also has 8 recorded rounds on the stadium course where he is 16th in this field in strokes gained ball striking at the stadium course. Decent finish to the fall swing, but just missed the cut at the Sony. Again, maybe knocking the rust off. But Piercy loves the desert, loves desert golf, plays well here. I think Piercy's some value at 7,100 too. And I think, honestly, all 3 of these guys give you win equity. I think every single one of them give you win equity, and they're all below 7,400 below. So that's that. My fade, and this was before talking to Gino, was going to be Joel. And I mentioned it in the Gino interview, miscut here in 2017 and 2018. He lost 4 shots in both of those rounds on strokes gained approach. The irons weren't there. Wasn't hitting it well into these greens. He's not great on Bermuda, and this is his first event off of a layoff, which we know you typically avoid. So there you go. That's my 7K range.
Okay. Well, this will be good because I'm going to talk about some different guys here than you mentioned, even though I do like some of the ones you said. But I'll start near the top here, and this is a guy that I kind of came on to later in the week last week, and that is Emiliano Grillo. I cannot quit that dude. I just can't.
I like him.
And we've seen him in pretty good recent form. Had that T8 back at the OHL. Finished top 50 last week, which was a little bit disappointing, but still, you look at the stats for him and everything else, it's just absolutely fantastic. I think this is another good course for him. I mean, now the putting is an issue for sure, but other than that, you've got third in greens in regulation. He's top 10 in ball striking, opportunities gained, and strokes gained approach. I like my boy Griot this week at 7,800, and then I'll drop down to let's see. We'll go to Mr. Cameron Tringali at 7,400. Another guy,
Davis. Oh, I was getting goosebumps. I was getting the chicken skin.
Yeah, I try not to mention him because I figured I always figure you might, and I don't want to just like double up.
Tall, drinking sexy Aussie water. All right, go ahead.
Love that guy. But anyway, I like some Tringali. We've seen him in good recent form. He's 15th in the field in approach, top 15 in par 5 scoring. Putts pretty well on Bermuda. So I think Tringali could be an interesting play there at 7,400. Also, now this is kind of a gut call. So we talk about making a few gut calls this week, and that is Wyndham Clark at 7,100. I like him this week. He played extremely well in the fall. He was top 10 or top 20 here a couple of years ago. Checks the box in par 5 scoring. He is a good putter on Bermuda. I think he can take a flyer on him. In GPPs, he's going to be super low owned. I like some Wyndham Clark. My fade is going to be a guy that this was a guy that I think I started this week last year with him. And you may know where I'm going. I loved him all year.
I can't get past Wyndham Clark.
Alex Noren.
Oh, God.
Fading Alex Noren this week.
Oh, you're fading him. Okay, good. Yep. Endorse. Okay. Yeah. Well, you started that section and ended it well. The Wyndham Clark and Tringali, you kind of lost me.
Why do you hate Wyndham Clark so bad?
I mean, he's a bomber. I mean, you take the weapon out of his hand a little bit. He's so volatile. He's like a really broke ass man's Cameron Champ. Except, well, actually, no, he's a better putter. He's a really good putter. Clark's a really good putter, but I mean, he can't keep it in the yard. Okay.
I mean, he may not have to hit driver a lot on this course. He can rein it in. Anyway, I like him. We'll see. Maybe we can make a bet there. I don't know.
You got to come up with it. We got to act fast. Let's do 6K range. I'm just going to give you 3 names. There's a few in here I like, but again, that's Nut Hut info. We don't have time to go through all of them. I'm going to give you 3 in here that I like. At 6,900, I like Martin Laird. I've been on him. He just won. He's playing good right now. Finished 17th at the Tournament of Champions, which is like middle of the pack. But he got to play in Hawaii. Shook the rust off. Not a bad record here. Not terrible. When you look at the stats at the Stadium course, it's not bad. Pretty good off the tee here. Irons have lacked a little bit, but he's doing okay at the Stadium course. I like Martin Laird. I think there's good value there for him. Gino mentioned this guy, Mark Hubbard. He's got 5 recorded rounds at the Stadium course. He's probably top third in this field in ball striking at the Stadium course over those 5 rounds, which is a pretty good. I mean, for a number of rounds at the Stadium course over the last couple of years, that's actually on the top end. So he's familiar with the Stadium course and does well. Finished 32nd at the Sony. This feels like a good event if Adam Long and Andrew Landry can win this event. A guy like Mark Hubbard, who found himself down the stretch at a couple tournaments last year, close with a chance to win. I think he could top 5, top 10 here, and kind of give you a really nice finish for a $6,700 guy. But my favorite guy in this range is our boy. He's been on the podcast a couple times. He's been on the podcast once. Scott Stallings at 6,600 is a really good number to me.
I looked at him also.
He likes this golf course. 6 rounds over the last couple years at the Stadium course, ranks 14th in ball striking in this field over that time. Not great finishes to speak of, but he likes this course, and this place sets up really well for him. And Scott is really focused coming into this year and dedicated to playing well, and like having the best year that he's ever had out here on tour. I think he's super committed and ready to go. I know all these guys are, but I think the $6,600 tag for him, I think he got some nice upside with Scott. So I'm going to go with that guy. There's a few other names in here I like, but I can't name them all. You'll have to catch the Nut Hut. And yeah, so let's go.
All right. Well, I like the Scott Stallings play. I think that one's good. So I think that is a one that I liked. Also, going back to the well, a guy I liked last week, and he finished top 20. Now, he is $300 more than he was last week at 6,700. That is Kramer Hickok Playing him again. I'm riding the Hickok train. I love him this week. I don't mind the little price increase at all. So I will play him. Also, like Nate Lashley at 6,400. He is another good. He's in good form. He's finished top 40. He's finished top 40 in 3 of his last 4 events. Also finished 4th at Corrales back in the fall. So it's not bad for a guy at 6,400. And he putts extremely well on Bermuda grass, and he's got decent course history here as well. So I will play a little Nate Lashley. He could be one of my long shot bets, by the way, also.